Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hex. PulseChain. One man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto. How you doing? I'm Broke Boy Crypto. I have here with me, as always, not always, he wasn't here the last time I was on the air, but Crypto Ewok, back from a well-earned, well-deserved couple of week vacay. So refreshed, ready to go. He's pumped. We got an SEC dismissal in his absence, and then the rest of the entire crypto market completely and utterly tanked. And that's where we're at now. All Ewok's fault if you want somebody to blame. But yeah, we are back in better than ever. Already dead. Is the start of the bear market already confirmed? And if not, when would it be? Is there a place where we could actually have this market turn bearish, and where would it be? Because that's what we're seeing, a lot of sentiment on X, Twitter, the last few days, the last few weeks, obviously on live streams and stuff like that. But just basically the entire crypto sphere, everybody's incredibly bearish right now. And for good reason. I mean, like, prices are horrible. And with every piece of good news, it seems that nothing good happens, including CPI data that was on its face pretty good today. And Ethereum does nothing on the news. So we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Metastang, Checks My Pulse, Marco, DJ Moonboy, and I'm sure a lot more are going to be checking in as well. So appreciate you guys being here. We have a lot of stuff to get to tonight. But first off, Ewok, welcome back from vacay. Checks My Pulse says your beard looks tan, looking good. How you feeling?
I don't know that the beard looks tan. My face might be a little tan still, but yeah, I'm feeling good. It was good to get away, get unplugged, and just do some relaxing. So had a good time. Got to meet up with a Hexican for lunch one day while I was gone, and enjoyed the sunshine for a little bit. It was a nice change for the season that we're in here.
Exactly. Although it is getting a little bit, we're having a warm week where we are right now, which is very, very nice.
I brought it back with me, man. Thank me.
What's that?
I said I brought the weather back.
Exactly. Well, I do appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, flipping the clocks forward again, which hopefully we don't ever have to go back again. That'd be nice, but a little nice with lighter in the evening here. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about crypto. So yeah, we've had some interesting things over the last couple of weeks. We're going to get to the prices of PulseChain. Ewok, obviously, him and I, going back a long time now, had kind of a disagreement of what we hypothesized would happen if and when the SEC case would get dismissed. And, we'll cover all this, but I mean, like, really neither one of us thought that we would see a complete and utter dismissal like we did. Seems like forever ago, almost 2 weeks ago now. but we did, and well, we'll get into what we thought the price would do in reaction to it. Needless to say, we were actually both wrong, and it's even worse than the bearish of the two, the bear of the two of us. So yeah, we'll get into that. Looking at the actual market right now, so far, we got Bitcoin at 83.5K today. Like I said, a catalyst today. Some good news coming in with the CPI data, inflation data for Donald Trump coming in lower than expected, not by a lot, but it was definitely cooler than expected, which is always good news. We don't know how true the numbers are. I said that during the last administration. I'll say it the same way here, but at least, whatever, the market's going to act positively to something like that. Ethereum just over $1,900 right now. It is pure and utter death spiral shit. And that's where we are with the prices of those two. I mean, we're catching up after a couple of weeks here, Ewok, and, you can start with what we're seeing from Bitcoin. And like, we know some of the key support levels were down there. It touched about 78K whenever we first started to move down last week. I think 72K is about where the weekly super trend would lie. And, that should tell people that so far this correction, as much as there's a lot of negative sentiment going around, it is pretty typical for a bull market to come back to these levels. I think where everybody's really hurting is obviously how absolutely disgusting Ethereum is. I mean, that's really what's killing everyone. But as far as Bitcoin, I mean, this is pretty much standard fare. And I think I get it narrative wise. Again, there's so much good news coming out. We had the strategic reserve announcement a couple of weeks ago, and then it wasn't exactly what everybody wanted, and yada, yada. There's all these things, news about tariffs. And I think people's heads are just spinning, trying to wrap it around. I'm not trying to act like the U.S. controls the entire world, but it is a gigantic country and it does impact the world. And Trump, this transition, it hasn't even been 2 months. So there's a lot going on. And, he's kind of announcing his arrival loudly. And there's these tariff wars going on. So a lot of people are like nervous and scared, and that's how things go with this. But we're seeing it in the markets for sure, not just crypto. So what do you make of this Bitcoin action as far as purely like a technical standpoint, but then also these other things swirling around just narrative wise?
Well, there's a lot of things to unpack. I mean, I still think there's a bunch of manipulation. I mean, there are still big players buying up Bitcoin. Yet the price is being held down somehow, some way. I'm not sure what's going on. When you look at these charts, though, and the place that we're in and the timing, I should have bookmarked the screenshot that I had seen earlier today. We're right about that run up position and time. I don't know if it goes another week or two or whatever it is, but before it really starts to take off on a parabolic upswing. And I think there are people that are like really suppressing the price so that they can buy. Not sure if the exchanges are in cahoots or who's got the market maker orders set. I have no idea, but it feels to me like there are so many signs of just bottom signals now more than ever. I've said it all along. I'm like, wow, that really looked like a bottom signal, but it wasn't. We had more down,
right?
And every time you say that, and there's even more down, it just seems to shake out even more people, and I'm seeing that all over the place. Like I said, I did unplug a bit, but I still stuck around Twitter enough to see the mentality of some folks that, normally being pretty bullish, start to change their tune. It's really taking its toll on a lot of people. As far as the whole economic thing, we kind of knew when they said they were going to start, we knew they were going to torch everything in order to rebuild. You almost have to. When you start cutting that many programs and that many things where you find this wasteful spending, it is going to have a trickle down effect. But in order to build it back up with what's essential, you have to get rid of a lot of waste. And it appears that, you're just burning the whole thing down. Well, I mean, I guess that's the best way to rebuild sometimes, is to start over from the foundation up. And, you mentioned the inflation going way down. Well, what happens when inflation goes down? Your spending power goes up, which means you get lower prices I don't know if that's kind of what's triggering the stock market, where we're coming back to maybe a true sense of valuation, where these things should be, instead of overinflated values. Now, I don't think it happens that quickly, but again, you've got to start somewhere, right? You've got to start where people are valuing things for what they really should cost as far as the spending power of the dollar goes. So
Yeah.
I think that could play into a little bit of what's going on as well. And crypto is going to be affected just the same. So, again, you got to sometimes burn it down and start from the foundation again if you want to rebuild it properly. And I kind of think that's what's happening with the overall markets in general.
I think you're right. Yeah, with this reaction, I mean, we're just in a very volatile time with all this news happening again. Like I said, with the Trump administration, and people just reacting to all of it every single day in one way or another. And Fast Abdul made a great point here, that every cycle at some point, everybody thinks it's over and they're wrong. And it's like, another great point is bull markets don't end when everybody thinks it's over. And everybody thinks it's over right now. You know what I mean? Bull markets end whenever there's no end for the good times in sight. And we've got Coinbase Super Bowl commercials and things like that. And that's just not where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Now, all that said, I mean, it hurts pretty bad. I mean, Ethereum is utter dog shit. And that's why, I'll get to Crypto Keeper's comment here where he's singling out PulseChain as the only thing that has no chance of going up, and it's the only thing down right now, which is just not true. Maybe that's not exactly what he said, but Ethereum is keeping everything down. I mean, nothing is going to move. You look at, like, we've said it a million times the last few weeks, look at like the top 50 coins on like a coin market cap or something like that, ones that have come around, been around for previous cycles and things like that. Look at Polygon, look at Polkadot. Look at, these are tokens that were like top 10, borderline top 10 in market cap last time around. Look at their charts right now based on their highs last cycle. Phantom, Sonic, whatever.
Polkadot.
Yeah, bingo. I mean, look at where it's literally at like the bottom right now.
There's
log
Kusama.
Oh, okay. Yeah, which is
I'm just switching through
chart. Yeah, I got
There's
you.
Matic. Polygon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's below all time. Like,
I don't know if that's real. I imagine there's probably more to the beginning chart, but the point remains.
Well, this is the Coinbase chart. So whenever Coinbase actually picked it up, so I could probably find a different one. But either way,
yeah,
Ripple looks like the only thing that may be on a little bit of an upswing. And
yeah, because and I didn't even put this in the notes, but yeah, because there's no actual news yet, and it's probably a foregone conclusion. But the SEC looks like they're going to wrap up whatever there's left of their lawsuit against Ripple soon. So it's one of those things that's pumped. But I mean, what is it really going to do in the bull market? That's one of the, and then Solana, I mean, even if you look at it recently, I mean, we all know that 2024 was pretty much the year of Sol and the memes and everything like that. All those Morad memes are down 80+%, if not into the 90s.
Yeah.
Solana is at least 50% down, I want to say. Last I looked, I mean, it was up at $250.
126 right now.
Okay. So I think it's about 50% down from where it was. So yeah, I mean, things are down. And I didn't even mean to get into this, but with the flow of the show, it just makes sense. So I'll show Crypto Keeper. Okay, guys, seriously, let's be real. No one say this coming this low with Pulse. The product may be nice, but there is no consumer support or choice. I don't really know what you mean by the second part of that, honestly. I don't know if you're just saying because it's not listed on exchanges or something, but the price being down bad is the point that we're making right now is not unique to PulseChain. I mean, it's just not at all. Actually, contrarily, you can look at the Pulse chart, which we'll do in a moment, not yet, but while it's revisiting previous lows, PulseX is 3 or 4 times up from previous lows. It's basically at parity now. And right there with Pulse. So it's one of those things which we'll get into. But I mean, if you've been DCing into all the core tokens in the ecosystem, then there's no way you're just feeling the pain of just the Pulse chart, Yeah. But in other words, misery loves company, whatever, call us bag holders, that's fine. But everything is down and in the shitter right now. Ethereum is $1,900. I mean, it is a disaster. Everything about the altcoin market right now is a complete and utter disaster. It's never been this terrible this late. That doesn't mean that it isn't going to turn around at some point. But everything is bad right now. horrible. But I don't want to get too far. Ewok, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts specifically on Ethereum because its ratio is down to like 0.022. Again, like you said, every single day it's like, oh, bottom signals everywhere, and it just feels like there's never any bottom. But obviously, this stuff will reverse at some point. We just don't know when for sure. But when you do have guys like Ben Cohen out there calling for even higher Bitcoin dominance and just victory lapping everything and beating their chest, that usually means you're close. So, what do you make of ETH destruction?
Yeah. So I'm looking here at this is the weekly chart, and it looks like the 50 is still over the 200, so it hasn't come back down across yet, surprisingly. So as long as the green stays above the red, basically in this picture, it is somewhat bullish, even though it is down. Like I think I'm looking at Daddy Hexler's comment here, and I don't know if you showed that or not.
I didn't,
but it's similar to what I was saying. Is he says what's happening now is largely due to all the inflation from the last 4 years. They have to suppress the markets to bring down inflation so they can release the quantitative easing again. We need to endure the pain, and it's pretty much what I was just saying a little bit earlier. As they bring some prices down and crash things, it gets back to more of a realistic price. But in the sense of Ethereum, I still think it's I still think it's okay, even as painful as it is and as painful as it looks. Like you said, 0.023. Yeah, it's as low as it's been in quite a while. That's what we're waiting for. I really think the pump off is going to start with Ethereum getting turned around. Richard has mentioned this before, that the coin that runs the chain shouldn't be overly expensive. Ethereum was kind of a one-off situation because you're using it for gas. Ideally, if you want prices to stay low and transaction fees to stay low, it's hard to make that coin high priced, I think. And then you start running into these $10, $15 cents. It gets a little ridiculous. So I think his intention for Pulse may have been, to keep it lower. And I think that's why we're seeing Pulse X kind of pick up the pace, because you did mention that a little bit earlier. So
yeah.
As far as Ethereum, I still believe in it. I think a lot of people believe in it. It's just that rough part of the cycle, and it sucks.
It sucks big time. The interesting thing is, and we've seen this for a while now, is Trump has been buying Ethereum in droves. I mean, a lot of people, mega whales, have been buying Ethereum despite Ethereum dumping and stuff sometimes in the background. But, I think it's really just going to be a matter of time. It's just this is where we are this cycle. I mean, Sami always talks about the third cycle curse. I mean, that's definitely where Ethereum is right now. Mm-hmm. But it may just mean that we have longer to go. And you just alluded to manipulation or the markets purposefully, being bounced down and stuff like that. I think there's definitely teeth to that as well. And what are you going to do? I mean, in the meantime, if you're in altcoins, which obviously everybody here watching this is, and, across a lot of crypto are, all you can do is just wait. And there's a likelihood that we could see some of this stuff go into 2026. We've talked about that before. Axis Alive has shared thoughts on that, in the past. And some of this now even looks more likely because of kind of the delay of where we are right now, even though a lot of this stuff can happen. The market can turn on a dime in crypto.
Yeah.
But it's happened in the past. I mean, you can speak to it, Ewok, 2017, which is what we're more so mirroring now. I mean, maybe not Bitcoin, maybe it will, maybe it doesn't, but something 100% is going to run into 2026, if not multiple or many things that will happen. Will we be part of it? If you experienced Hex in 2020 and 2021, it was really after Ethereum topped, or after people thought Ethereum topped, that Hex had its moment really in the sun. Will that happen again with this ecosystem? So, Ewok, maybe you can and then we'll kind of get to other stuff. I mean, what can you talk about as far as 2017 and the potential of things spilling over into 2026? Because I said this to you the other day, and I think you kind of misinterpreted what I meant. there's definitely 4-year cycles. I wasn't arguing anything beyond that, but like, I think psychologically, participants and investors in this market are really hurting themselves mentally, always thinking of the 4-year cycle and thinking like, oh my God, hey, we've got 9 months now at December 2025. If things are where they need to be, I'm and then they're making bad short-term decisions. That's all I meant by that. And I think that people maybe are too married to exact timing of things, and it's messing with them,
I mean, I guess we could go back and look, but people forget the parabolic run-ups happen within 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Yes, we may have 8-9 months left in the year, but the majority of the upswing that happens in most of these markets. Now, Bitcoin's a little different because it's the grandfather, right? It's 1 year down and then it's a steady 3 years up. Well, this other stuff, they say it's 3 years down and 1 year up. Well, it's not even 1 year. When you look at the run up, it happens so quickly for a lot of things. The movements go from this was back, what are we looking at, December of 20? No, you're talking 17, right?
Yeah.
So we have to go to Bitcoin for that. But the majority of the price run, well, again, I just said that for 2017, it is going to run up for basically 3 years. When you look at this on the daily chart, the upswing from 2016 is all up. Hang on, why is this not doing what I wanted to do? But when you look at some of the smaller tokens, a lot of those parabolic things happen within 6 to 18 weeks, pretty much. It's a very shortened period of time. So, yes, we have a lot of time left this year, but they forget how quickly that it does run up, I think, sometimes, and forget when the good times happen, they happen quickly. Mm-hmm. So, 9 months is a long time to find, 2 months, 3 months maybe of solid run up, and that's when everybody starts jumping in, and just kind of pushes it that way. So I don't know. I mean, I didn't disagree with you, but I still say when we zoom out, we look at the time frame, and it's still the same. Mm-hmm. You've got this run up basically from
you don't have that on the screen yet.
Oh, I don't?
No.
Oh.
There you go.
Interesting. All right. You've got this run up that basically went from 3,000 that started in August, that went all the way to 20,000 in December. So that was your main run, your main run in 2017 was a very short period because it did fall back. August of 2017, it was down to, where's that, September? That's September. So it went from 3,000 in Bitcoin all the way up to 20,000 in 3 months, 4 months. So it happens quickly, and then even when you look at the time frame for 2021, this was September of 20, and here we are, April of 21. Mm-hmm. So again, a very short period of time.
Yep. 6 months basically.
Yeah. And this is Bitcoin. That's not even something like I said. When you look at Ethereum, and I don't know why these things keep jumping out of whack on me here, but it's just people forget that everything's compressed. Bull markets are compressed into a very short period of time because the hyperness of the whole thing, people start jumping on and piling on. When they see green candles, it's just so quick, and it happens basically overnight. Yeah. So what seems like overnight.
It does turn on a dime. And I mean, like, yeah, I mean, people have talked about it. I mean, it's basically a 3.5 year bear market, or
Yeah,
at least anti-bull market, not things
right.
going parabolic or anything. And Hex Girl, I think, asks a pretty good question here. Can we really look at past cycles when this is the first cycle the government was so involved in crypto? This might be different. And I want to get your take on that, Ewok. I mean, she is right. I mean, yeah, we do have obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, although the Ethereum ETF might as well, wipe your ass with that. But we do have that. We have, Trump wanting America to be the crypto capital world, all these different things. But I think when it comes to the timing, though, I don't think we're going to see anything really different. I don't think the timing of it necessarily, in terms of the government being involved, I think the timing of the cycles would still be accurate because it's all related to money printing. I mean, the trope has always kind of been, no, it's related to the Bitcoin halving, but it's really also related to liquidity. And they're actually being money printed with it throughout the world and things like that. So I don't think timing wise, the government being involved will have any effect. Maybe short term chart wise, that would be my kind of take on it. But what do you think about that, Ewok?
Well, I think as time goes on, all things get better, right? Like we just mentioned, Bitcoin has the 1 year down, 3 years up, because it's been around so long. It's a lot more stable, but I think that's because of time. I think things will hopefully start to pivot a little bit, and the longer tokens have been around, the less of a drop we'll see. That just means that there's more separation, everything's so much more spread out between many people. You don't have a lot of big holders that can really just crash the price and do devastating things to a token. It becomes a lot more spread out. It's harder for one person to crash it, and I think you do see that with time given along the way. You end up with lost coins, you end up with people that forget their keys, you end up with just people that die, and then nobody has access to it anymore. So I mean, those things happen, and over time, yeah, I think it definitely helps. Could this extend it? I don't know. We'll see. People talk about the government now doing things, but that statement of the fund that they wanted to keep, they said they weren't going to buy any. Unfortunately, they're not going to sell it either. So, it's not really bullish for price. It just doesn't make it quite as bearish. So I think that's kind of how we have to look at that.
And we're going to get into that topic too. And RH actually tweeted about that as well, the Bitcoin strategic reserve. So yeah, we'll get to that specifically. But great question, Hex Girl. We got Wild SJ in the chat. So welcome in. She's the PulseChain Tour account that's in there. So welcome in, SJ. Briz is here. Yellowtail. Appreciate you guys being here tonight. We're going to transition specifically into PulseChain here. So let's look at the prices within this ecosystem. We got Pulse right now at 4 zeros and a 345. We have PulseX at 4 zeros, 318. Inc is at $1.89. We have Hex at 009 essentially, and then eHex I think is like 0027 by the looks of it. So that is where we are. We essentially have Pulse triple bottoming at this point. I think it's basically sweeping the lows for about the third window of time here that we saw back about August of 2023 whenever it first did it, shortly after the SEC news came down. PulseX, I mean, we saw PulseX, and you were away when this happened, Ewok, but we were conversing about it. But PulseX flipped Pulse for a small period of time, reached parity, and really, even on this downturn, has not, I mean, it has basically maintained it. I mean, it really hasn't gone down. The ratio has not widened. I mean, I think it's evident right now. We've talked ad nauseum about that PulseX versus Pulse chart and just how stair-step beautiful it is. And it looks very intentional, and it's fantastic, and it still is right there. And it remains to be seen, will PulseX flip and sustain a flip of Pulse eventually? We will see. We know it's deflationary. That's the one amazing thing that you can look at. Kind of, if there's any number that's going on within the ecosystem, it is the buy and burn percentage of PulseX tokens right now. So that is phenomenal. But those are kind of where the prices are now. Obviously we're going to kind of follow what's going on with the rest of the market. But remember, Ethereum is struggling so badly right now that the Pulse to ETH chart is still just kind of hanging out. Nothing disastrous really there. But yeah, what do you make of this kind of triple bottoming we're seeing right now? Because honestly, I'm actually as encouraged as you could possibly be with the Pulse chart, just seeing that, like, okay, we're continuing to hold, a prior low, just sweeping it again, even with Ethereum hitting new lows that we haven't seen since I don't even know how long. So yeah, what do you make of that?
Yeah, that is huge. So the Pulse ETH pair probably is actually looking a lot stronger, because we haven't, there was one time back in September where we dipped below this level that we've hit 1, 2, 3. It dipped below it here, and then made it above, and now fourth time again. So this is the fourth hit on this support, and it's really got to hold. If it doesn't hold, it could be bad for price. I mean, I'm excited too. Like, I think these levels are crazy low to pick some up. I'm trying to put as much in as I can at this point. Just getting back from vacation, not always the easiest time to do that, but
that's why you just don't go on vacation like me.
Well, yeah,
don't do anything.
Yeah, you got to live a little.
Okay,
got to touch dirt, right? Touch some grass.
Well, I touch plenty of dirt. Maybe just playing out my yard or whatever.
I hear you.
Anyway,
but no, I do like where we're at. It seems to be holding. It's been several days playing in this area, and it's so far it's held. Again, we dropped too much further below this level. It could reach another one. Like, I didn't get out the Fibonacci to know what retracement levels there are on this. But yeah, so far so good. It's holding. But if it goes below I would say 3.2 at all, it could get down to another level. Could be in the 2.8, 2.9 area.
And that is not, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm going to. That is actually where people have kind of called it, like 2.7, 2.8 as a possibility. Yeah, you're right.
Fair enough. I'm just kind of guessing because, like I said, I didn't get out the retracement tool, but that's my guess. And yeah, I mean, still looking okay as long as we hold these levels. I think we're hanging in there.
Obviously, it sucks that we're still on this channel. It sucks that we're at these lows again. But I mean, you have to, again, look at the rest of the market. We're not going to take off on our own. And it doesn't even have to do, some people are married to the fact that, like, oh, there's like an ETH treasury fund, and it's because that's so far down right now. No, I mean, it's just, we are going to be tied to liquidity. And it's, as far as Ethereum doing as badly as it is right now, we're going to do that badly. It's just kind of the way it is. But yeah.
Sorry, NJ Dub. I don't mean to blind everybody, but you got to be realistic too.
You do, but you also, if you don't want to, you don't have to look at them every day either. So, kind of, actually what I've been doing, I've actually been paying attention to the PulseChain prices less than I think I have the entire 2 years of its existence, because I just know the whole market is butchered right now. I've just been looking at Ethereum and BTC lately just to see, honestly, almost like bear market vibes. Like, okay, when are we going to turn around here?
If you want to feel good, just keep looking at the PulseX Pulse price. And
there you go.
This one is the pretty one. So,
or PDI. It's another good one.
Or PDI. Yep.
Yeah. PulseX looking amazing. And honestly, the PulseX USD chart also looks better than the Pulse chart. It looks rock solid as well. Yeah.
Yep. It's holding in a nice channel here. It's been in a channel for quite a while, actually. So,
yeah. Yep, it's working on busting on out of there. So just patience. I mean, we can. I mean, I'm still DCAing everything I possibly can as soon as money comes in. To the ecosystem, and as far as, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do or guide anybody, but I'm just basically going to buy the main tokens all equally right now. I mean, Crypto Keeper, I don't mean to single you out, but I really have no idea what you're looking at. PulseX not looking amazing, guys. Come on. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, it's like 3 or 4x from its low, and it was at one time trading at 1-4 to Pulse, and is now at 1-1 with it. So I don't know. I really don't get it. Find me the chart you're looking at in crypto that's doing great right now, and I'd love to have done the trade you're doing, Crypto Keeper. But Yeah, so I think that's where we're really at there. Do you have any final thoughts on as far as the prices in the ecosystem right now, Ewok?
No, like I said, this is probably the first time I've even looked at these charts since I've been back. So,
Probably for the
um,
best. Yeah.
yeah, I don't like to look at charts. I'm not a I'm not. Yeah, incentive looks like garbage, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
no, nothing to add.
Okay, cool. Cool. Well, hey, if you guys are here and enjoying the stream, go ahead and hit the like. We appreciate you being here. Subscribe to the channel, help support Real DeFi. And let's get into some of the other pieces of news that you did miss while you were out, Ewok, that are very significant. So go ahead and if you have that tweet that I sent you, and it was just one random dude, but many people have been tweeting this about Trump purposefully crashing the stock market short term to essentially refinance debt at lower rates. And the guy that I sent you, I mean, he's not the only person speculating on this. And I find this interesting. You kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but this has even more details. This is at Max Brown BTC on Twitter. I don't know too much about the guy, but it echoed the same sentiment that I was seeing a lot of people say. He said, Trump wants to crash the stock market. The U.S. government, I guess he's yelling this at us. The U.S. government has to refinance $7 trillion of debt in the next 6 months. There's no way Trump wants to refinance it at a current 10-year yield. This is why he's crashing the stock market and pumping bond prices. As bond prices will go up, yields will come down, and the U.S. government will be able to refinance their debt at cheap. Not only that, lower bond yields will also push the Fed to do rate cuts, which is bullish for risk on assets. I do think Trump wants that ultimately. So don't panic over the short term and look at the longer picture. So
Yeah.
that got 20K likes. So quite a few people saw this. I'm sure there's some thoughtful comments too. But yeah, what do you make of that? I mean, I don't think it's any kind of grand conspiracy. You kind of alluded to it too. And I do think it's part of Trump's game plan here.
Well, it might be, and yeah, I mean, again, you've got to bring things down if you want to get inflation down. You got to get realistic prices, and there is a devastating amount of debt that is coming up for they're going to have to refinance it very, very soon. So this is probably the quickest way to get the rates down and get the bond prices up so that it can be done a lot cheaper. It'll save us, I forget, what did they say? We're paying what, 3 trillion a year in interest alone. You've got to get that number down if you want to do anything to inflation and to the debt. That's like a credit card debt that's just out of hand, and you make $1,000 payment and it only takes $100 off your balance because you got $900 in interest.
Yeah.
It's just you've got to do something, and I think he was set up for failure by the last administration on purpose to make a lot of these things come due right after they left office. So yeah, I think it's, if anything, it's a good play. People were worried about the stock market. These are all short-term things. I wouldn't be, and if that's his goal, then he's looking at the big picture. So I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, I think the tariff negotiations are playing a huge part, obviously. And it's incredible to me, and I don't want to get way too off into the tariff stuff, but it's incredible to me that so many people cannot see some of this as pure negotiating tactics, with some of the wild numbers that we see out there of 25% tariffs and other countries going back and forth. And we saw Canada cave the other day to one part of those negotiations. But, I don't know how, look, most people that don't support Trump think he's like a lying bullshitter and stuff like that. So why would it be so hard for you to believe that he doesn't really mean some of the things that he says or some of the things that he's trying to impose because he's trying to negotiate with people? I don't know why people don't see that. And he even himself has pushed back windows on some of these tariffs and stuff like that. So I think it's clear that there is a plan that he wants to get to, but a lot of the headlines that we're seeing are purely negotiation tactics,
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think a lot of the things he says and does is to get reaction. Play tough guy a little bit. A lot of times when he says, no, sorry, they do come back within a day or so and rethink their stance. It's happened multiple times now with different countries on different tariffs. So, you got to play hardball, and he knows how to do that. And he also knows that we've been, as a country, taken advantage of for a long time by a lot of countries who put stuff out there, and when you don't say no, they just keep pushing more and more. And and when you're not saying no, it just that money just gets out of hand, and that's what's happened over the last years.
Yeah. Yep, I do agree with you. So it'll be interesting to see how the trend continues here, but I think he definitely has a plan. Yeah, Hex Girl, art of the deal for sure. So yeah, good stuff there. And continuing with the Trump news. So the Bitcoin strategic reserve. So this was just so much drama last week, and it just baffles me. And Scott Melker, who, has been somewhat antagonistic to this community and stuff in the past, but he's also had Gary Woods and Brandon on before, Rags to Riches, and stuff like that. So I'm not going to say anything here nor there, but I thought he did have some good thoughts on people's reaction, largely extremely negative reaction to the news of this Bitcoin strategic reserve last week and the stockpile. So everybody thought this was going to be, there's going to be like an altcoin portfolio and they're going to be buying our altcoins for us and all these different things. That is not what we actually did get. There was a big sell-off. This is really when the sell-off commenced last week. I think it was like maybe Thursday last week or so. Everybody was under the impression the reserve would buy BTC and alts for the stockpile, but it's really that existing, like, for example, holdings of gold or other holdings can be swapped into Bitcoin. And they're just holding, like you said earlier, Ewok, and not selling. Everyone is pissed. Again, the market sells off. I didn't send you that RH tweet. I will send you that because he talked about it being bullish in terms of downside sell pressure being mitigated. And it's also just for the altcoin bags, the stockpile would be like things that they basically intercepted. There were so like crime related or something like that. I forget exactly how it's said, but what do you make of this because I think overall this is actually very bullish. I got to send you, I did miss a couple tweets I wanted to send you, but I think this is definitely bullish and people looked at it the wrong way. And I don't think they were ever going to totally buy the altcoin bags or anything, but what do you make of this and the market's reaction?
Well, again, I said, I think I even tweeted something to the point of it's neither bearish nor bullish, but it is one of those sell the news events. I think the fact that they're not selling any of the crypto, it is a bullish thing. It's just that they're not buying more. Now the government has seized a lot of crypto over the years, and if it's going into their reserve, at some point they're going to have to do something with it. I would imagine. Let me.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize you had that one up. Do you mind if I read that real quick before?
Go ahead.
I didn't see you had that. So from BitPain, he said, I literally have not seen a single person who read the executive order correctly. This is more than I was hoping for. BTC recognized as a valuable strategic asset by the largest economy in the world. BTC and shitcoins now officially separated in U.S. government policy. Shitcoin Cs won't be sold. Only Bitcoin will worth accumulating. Besant and Lutnick, I don't know that name, Lutnick authorized to develop budget-neutral strategies for further acquisition. Literally, what else was anyone hoping for? This is everything. If this doesn't make you fully erect, you are. I'm not going to go on with that. But yeah, so what do you make of this? I tend to agree with them. I mean, I don't know if this is like a Bitcoin. I don't really know this guy. I don't know if he's like a Bitcoin maxi or something like that, but I agree with this. I mean, so much of this stuff, like if you would have learned about this 6 months ago or something like that, you'd have been like ecstatic about this, with the previous administration. And now here we are now, and everybody just wants everything to be exactly what they want, packaged with a bow on top. And
it's just not what they thought it was going to be. And I think that again, you've got. I feel like sometimes it's like a spoiled, rotten brat who didn't get their way, or didn't get exactly what they wanted for Christmas. And here people need to be a little bit more grateful. I see it as a bullish sentiment more than bearish. Yes, they're not buying any, but they're also not dumping the price. Do we want the government though to hold on to? So I'm a little torn. I'm a little torn. Which administration is going to go nuts and reverse this? Because I think all it would take would be an executive order to reverse, just like anything else, where you get the wrong people in office and they do dump the price. So that's my only concern about this is
Mhm.
I, I I don't care one way or another. I think they probably should buy, but then who's to say, well, they're buying all Bitcoin and they're not buying Ethereum, or
Right.
they're not going to buy Hex. You know, we can. I don't know, but again, just the fact that they're not dumping, if they do take any of their reserves and just hold it, I I don't see how that is a bad thing at all.
I'm with you. Yeah, and what you just said, everybody's gonna have a problem with it at some point, no matter what.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter what they're acquiring, people are gonna have an issue with it. And
exactly.
I did DM you RH's tweet about it. Yeah, so this was directly into the fact that they're not buying. Short-term bearish because wish thinkers dreamt themselves up expectations that no one in power or I actually gave them. Long-term bullish because it removes sell pressure. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's just that short-term price action because people had one thing hoped up and it didn't come to fruition, so
Yep,
they're
yep,
mad.
exactly.
But I think this is good long term. I think it's very good overall. And it's just the color of the candles right now. That's just where we're at, and people are going to be upset about any kind of any news that isn't exactly to a T what they wanted to hear. So
Sure.
yeah, I think that pretty much covers that topic. Let's get to let's just, because you weren't here, and then I definitely want to get into this centralized exchange thing because there's a lot to talk about, and especially with this amazing interview that Corey Costa had with Panos at Strident Citizen earlier today on Corey's channel, which everybody should check out, but we'll get to that in a moment. So you weren't here when it happened, obviously. SEC drops the lawsuit. That's not correct. I'm used to saying that with every other case. The judge fully dismisses the SEC lawsuit against Richard Hart. This was literally the opposite of what I just said a moment ago. All the other cases, the SEC actually dropped their lawsuit. This was the judge coming in and going over the entire case. She wrote like a 30-page response, which I read right here on this channel, about how she was dismissing it on all accounts. It wasn't just like a technical jurisdiction thing. She piece by piece said it wasn't even fraud anyway. Totally dismissed. I mean, literally the best thing that we ever could have hoped for. It was 100 out of 10. Amazing. Maybe we could have wished that it happened a little bit sooner than it did, but whatever. 4 months and we got our answer. So fully dismissed. Ewok and I, if you guys are not familiar, have had disagreements on what the price would do leading up to this after a dismissal, if we would get one. We'd have to go back. I would love to see the clips, but Ewok, I know that you talked about a 10x over a certain period of time, and tons of money is on the sidelines waiting for clarity on this. I usually said something like, I think we would see a 2x on it pretty quickly after the news happened, and that was all that we would get, because I just don't think that people really take the SEC that seriously. Whether there's a threat or not, people just, don't really give a shit about what they have to say. So here we are. We're actually, and my goal is not just to get you to eat your words or anything here, because even I was too bullish apparently, because I'm trying to remember where we even were exactly out before the news. I think it was probably 4 zeros and a 4 or something like that. And we probably got like a 50% pump, not even a 2x, 100% pump. I think it was maybe 50%. Pulse X was probably a little bit more because it did flip Pulse, for a moment. And then, of course, the rest is history after that, because unbeknownst to us, the rest of the market decided they were going to just, pull their pants down and let the man take them. So we're all screwed right now. Ethereum's $1,900 and everything sucks. But what do you make of this reaction, though, Ewok? I mean, we did see a pump, obviously, the day of. It was I will say, it was an amazing day. I won't forget it just as much as I won't forget the day that the lawsuit came down. Friday, February 28th. It was right around 5 o'clock on the East Coast. I fired up the crypto coffee stream right away. Then I was like, oh, man, I got to get in on this. And then I came on a little bit later and went over the document. But yeah, not the price that we wanted to see. I mean, at this point, we can pretty much say that the SEC dismissal was priced in. We saw a reactionary pump, and now we're actually below those prices by quite a bit. So what do you make of this? And to me, I guess what I'll just say is greater market forces are at play that are far more powerful than the SEC. And that is kind of what I did think. And I didn't know that Ethereum would get even this bad, but I figured that the bigger market would have more of an impact. But yeah, what do you make of this?
So my exact prediction the last time we talked about this was that I said it would do a 5 to 10x within a week. I thought the news would really take off. I thought Richard would possibly stream again. I thought a lot of things. I thought there's money on the side waiting. What I didn't predict or even think about. So this could, I don't want to say could still happen, but it's looking less and less likely now since we didn't really see any kind of movement. It went. I just showed the price on that day, and let's actually look at it here real quick. It went. This is the 28th, the day it happened, right? February 28th.
Yep.
At the low, it was 403711. At the high that day, went to 404860. So
Wow.
it didn't even double. It got as high the next day as 4962. So, and then it just sold off. What I didn't figure or even think about was the opportunity that the SEC has to rebuttal, or reply or appeal. I know you covered that document. Do you remember what she said? And she did specify that if you can, in good standing, reply, like give a response. Did she give 14 days for that?
It's 20 days. And I believe that was known even before, like the SEC put that language in there before, like at the beginning of this whole process.
Okay.
That basically, if this would be dismissed, that they have 20 days to send something back.
Okay.
But of course, with how much she decimated every single angle of everything they said,
right,
it's kind of doubtful and difficult to do, probably.
Right. So there's that, and then I believe they have 60 days to appeal. They have 20 days to respond, and then they have it's either 30 or 60 days to actually appeal her decision. Once they don't respond, I believe that she will come out with a ruling that says dismissed with prejudice. That's what we really need to see, is the with prejudice part, so that we can't be tried again, right? Now, when she does that throw the appeal out the window? I don't know. Hopefully, my thoughts are that is possibly what Richard's waiting for before any kind of stream. You don't want to give these guys any kind of ammo to do anything with, right? Don't give them a reason to appeal, because they will. If you rub it in their face or do anything like that, they will probably appeal it. I don't think they will either. I don't think they'll appeal with this administration. I hope not. But why give them a reason to? I don't know that I would come out and stream and like do it's like dancing on someone's grave. I don't know that you would want to do that until their right to appeal has passed. So I still think there's a chance that we can get a pump out of it, but and I think maybe I thought he would stream right away, not realizing that all this other stuff kind of has to play out. There's still hope, but a 5-10x, obviously we didn't get that any kind of
not
thing
quite
near that reaction. We didn't even get a 2x. So
no,
the hope for that is down, but again, market sentiment is down overall across everything. So yeah, I was wrong. I will admit I was wrong on my prediction, and
as was I. I was even too optimistic. And Wild SJ says it is 20 and 60 days, so they do have 60 days to appeal. I mean, I don't think that Richard Hart streaming would be, unless he's on there flat out dunking on the SEC left and right, which I don't think at all he would be doing, especially because it is different now. To me, it just doesn't seem like celebrating too early or victory lapping or anything. I don't know. To me, it seems like not that big of a deal. I guess to me, like, there just doesn't appear to be much of a threat anymore, just because of this reformation. And the fact that, I read that 30-page document. The judge absolutely destroyed every single thing that they said. It was not, she was very harsh in some of the things that she said. And that doesn't, and again, that doesn't stop anybody from filing another lawsuit or appealing or whatever. I just think it's so unlikely that, I mean, obviously Richard has attorneys that he's paying a lot of money for. He's going to listen to them. And then also, as much as it may be bullshit, there is still the red notice garbage out there. And, I didn't mean to get into like a conversation about him streaming, but how much is that impacting anything?
Sure.
I mean,
it could.
And then it's like, why does he have to stream? Why wouldn't he? I mean, I think people would probably just like uploads like the Christmas thing. But here's the thing. Nothing that we are talking about is going to do anything crazy for the price right now because Ethereum is where it's at. I mean, you could say it until you're blue in the face. There's just all these little things we're talking about. Like the market matters. The SEC doesn't really matter. I mean, yes, they're part of the equation, but the market has said, I'll piss on the SEC. I don't care. I'm not worried about them, especially under this new regime. And I just, I guess what we're having is two different conversations. Like, when do we pump versus will RH stream and is it worth it or not? And thanks for the super chat, DJ Moonboy. I appreciate it. But yeah, I feel like there shouldn't be many reasons that he wouldn't be streaming at this point, but I'm also not somebody paid to defend him. So,
well, listen, he obviously knows what's best. SJ even mentioned Nuclear Herb stream. I was able to listen to some of that while I was away, and just the calculated everything that he thought of so far in advance. I mean, it's unbelievable to me that for every landmine that there could have been, he knew which step to take around it, and did it. It's pretty, I don't know. It's pretty remarkable that he could navigate something like that and get the verdict. Obviously had a great team that was defending him as well. I'm sure that helps too, but just all these little things that he thought of in advance, and somehow circumnavigated it, and came out pretty unscathed. It's pretty remarkable. So there's a reason. If he's not streaming, there's a reason. I mean, we have to understand what he's done already, how he's planned ahead, and known what pitfalls not to hit. Maybe this is one of them, and we have to like trust the process, and we'll get one sooner or later when the time is right.
And with maybe he is even taking like the Ethereum stuff into account. Like if there are still things to be careful about with him streaming, why do it now with Ethereum in the goddamn toilet? You know what I mean? Like, well, what are you going to do? Like, you come out in this triumphant return. Think about this. You come out with this triumphant return, like you're going to have a live stream. Maybe somebody interviews you or something, and he knows how much people would pop off about it. There would be a short-term pump, and then the next day it just rolls back over again.
Could be.
Like, is that what you want to have?
Yeah. I mean, he's been pretty good at calling tops and bottoms, and maybe he doesn't feel this is a bottom.
Right.
Could be a very, very good possibility with that as well.
Well said, Digital Money Marcus, kind of along the lines we just said. When the SAC funds are green, I believe he'll stream. Timing is everything. Yeah, we want to be in an uptrend, and Ethereum has just been falling and falling and falling. So, yep, I get it. So, just continue to be patient. Same drum we've been beating, basically. But I do agree with you. We shouldn't, even though it's been 2 weeks and it's like out of everybody's mind already because of the rest of the market, but we really should hang on to this victory as like a precedent for crypto, a gigantic decision. 5% of these cases, do they actually get dismissed, and it legitimately won against the SEC. And yeah, kudos to RH, kudos to his team that he hired and everything. I mean, they did an impeccable job, and I get what you're saying. Why screw it up if there's still a way, even if it's small percentage chance? Why screw it up at this point?
Let's take a look at this. I bookmarked this a long time ago when we had Axis on stream, and he had brought this pi cycle top indicator chart out. We're not even close. I should have brought this out earlier when we were talking about people saying that it's the top and whatever. But if you notice on the last cycle, the top, well, this was the 2017 top, and then we had the 2018 cycle, where it kind of closed in a little bit in September of 19 and then pulled away again and didn't until April, which was the official first top. I kind of feel like that's what's happening in here a little bit. And then it is going to extend again. So, we're not even close on the pi cycle top indicator either. So don't get worried. It's not over. We've got a long way to go for this to close out. And in case you're wondering, every time these lines coincide, it has called the top on the day, basically.
Right. It's been like the best indicator for that, right?
It's been the best indicator for Bitcoin of the top. So just to let you know.
Yeah. Yeah, good long-term view on that for sure. Appreciate it. Even though nobody wants to hear that right now, I understand it, but that's where we are.
People should want to hear it. We're not even close to the top. So
no, I hear you. People just don't want to keep being patient, I guess.
I hear you.
Yeah, that's all.
Let's talk about this exchange thing. I'm excited to get into that.
We're going to do it. I'm going to remind everybody, if you're here and digging the stream, do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate you being here. We got big-time representation from this community tonight. We had Fast Abdul, Briz, SJ. Appreciate all of you guys being here every single week. We got to get into the exchange thing. So this really all started with Richard Hart. Obviously, the ethos of him for a long time has been like, hey, exchanges suck. Why deal with exchanges? They charge you money to list the tokens. It's not decentralized. People lose their money on there. I mean, all things that are objectively true, really. But the great debate about it does rage on, whether we need them for specifically this ecosystem or not. And we know that other layer ones like Cardano and things like that over the course of time, Phantom, have been on different exchanges, Solana, all these different ones, and are largely traded on there and don't have their volume primarily on DEXs. So maybe we could, let's first maybe start with, I'm trying to see which way to start. Let's start with the MEXC part of this, because this dates back for a while where Crypto Coffee and some other people really, and I didn't know this, but Panos, who was on with Corey Costa earlier today, he's at Strident Citizen on Twitter, and I've followed him for quite some time. But MEXC, originally, there was money raised to provide liquidity for Pulse to get a listing on MEXC. I think it was into the six figures, although I found out today that only apparently 60,000 of that or so was an actual payment to them, I believe, about half of it.
Yep.
So MEXC had listed Pulse and then delisted it months after Coffee. And again, those others did raise money to get it listed. And allegedly, we saw on Twitter, we're asking for more money to relist it again, or additional funds. I think it was not, I forget how much, 60 to 90,000 again, or
60.
Something like 60.
No,
okay.
There's another 60.
So we saw that led obviously the hornet's nest of this community to come out and say like, well, we've already paid you guys. What are you asking for more money? We don't need MEXC. Fuck you guys. All this stuff that does happen. And honestly, like, I was kind of aboard that as well, because, as somebody that hasn't even ever used MEXC, didn't know too much about it, and seeing them take that action, you're used to, I get people being, turned off by this community being that hornet's nest, but also when you've been gate kept by other things, it's kind of what you come to expect. So I understand both sides here. To that point, and we'll get further into the MEXC thing in the Corey Costa interview with Panos today, Richard is now actively campaigning, seemingly, for exchanges. So the community's been doubling down on getting listings. And yes, I can see the hypocrisy in that. Panos talked about it today. All these people like, we don't need exchanges, we're DeFi, and all these different things. And then the minute that Richard Hart tweets about it, it's like, hey, Kraken, Coinbase, list us, So I get it. And I've probably been slightly a hypocrite as far as that stuff has gone as well. Do you want to show Richard's tweet just real quick? Yeah, there it is. Okay. So he said, PulseChain just won big in court. It's not a security and has had flawless operations since 662 days ago. A top on-chain DEX volume chain in the world, 47,000 validators, over 100 million bridged in, and deca millions of stables. Now's the time for you to contact only these I like how he did say this. Only these large entities to support PulseChain. Small exchanges get hacked too often. It's easy to integrate an ETH fork and has a couple of great free RPCs too. Of those, I wish Kraken would list first, as I've heard good things about their support and their founder. Coinbase is doing great with lobbying, large cold wallets, and then he lists off basically exchanges that have gigantic cold wallets. Binance, OKX. I don't even know who some of these are, honestly, Crypto.com, things like that. KuCoin. So yeah, he tags like a bunch of major exchanges, talks specifically about Kraken and Coinbase. That leads everybody to kind of flock and fill out and I've done this before for a Kraken, Binance, a lot of the other ones, the listing request on the website. Right. I think we've already seen multiple Kraken ones come back saying, sorry to disappoint you, but we're deciding not to list it at this time. I mean, who knows? That happens to different people individually and stuff like that. There's a lot. Yeah, Kraken seemed to reject multiple users' requests to list Pulse, which a lot of people get upset with because we've seen like Dave Portnoy's memes get listed on Kraken. So there's that. And there's a lot here. I want you to respond to all of it. But my last question to you before we get into all of it is, do they really dislike Richard this much? Because now there's nothing really in the way in terms of the SEC. And I didn't know this, but Panos said this on that stream today. XRP was delisted by quite a number of exchanges when the SEC stuff started, actually.
Yeah,
so
I remember that.
I did not know that. So good to know. So is it the dislike of RH, the disdain of RH, the way this ecosystem is it the users in the ecosystem? And quite frankly, just like the behavior on Twitter and the hornet's nest mentality, because Panos in that interview with Corey Costa today pretty much seemed to indicate that as far as MEXC went anyway, it's like, hey, this is one of our main forms of advertising. And you guys are out here like dragging us through the mud now, so
well,
there's a lot of things here. So whatever.
There's a lot to unpack. Yeah.
So
the first thing that I think a lot of people didn't understand was, well, all right, let's back up. Whenever the $120,000 was raised and given to them for the initial onboarding, the way Panos said it, 60,000 of that was for integration. It goes to integration. It goes to setting it up the chain. It goes to marketing. It goes to a lot of things. That is their listing fee. That has already been paid. What they were asking for was the other 60,000, and I never knew this before. So the other 60,000 was liquidity. So according to Panos, when you as a lister, the ones who pay to list it usually also supply the liquidity. They do that with a account login specific type thing where you are considered a funder of the liquidity. You have a login. People, I don't know if they choose to do a multi-sig or something like that, or if only one person has access to it. That seems a little shady to me, but either way, you have access to that liquidity that gets entered and thrown into the pool, so that and then you give the market maker, they're basically bots, the opportunity to use those funds to trade your token, right? That's how these guys make their money. All of these exchanges use trading fees to generate a revenue. Well, apparently when they delisted it because of the SEC news, whoever had control of that pulled, and I think at that point it had gone down substantially, probably from 60,000 to 40,000. They pulled the remaining liquidity. So somebody still has that $40,000, or whatever it may be worth now. It could be 30 for all I know, because of the value of the token. You split it as far as USDC or USDT, whatever. It has to have an equal pair. You have to put in as much stable coin as you do the token. So it was 30 and 30 of PulseChain and whatever stable it was. When they delisted it, that money got pulled out of that account. So the funding account was empty. I do believe that was where the big misunderstanding came from, is they were asking for that funding back into the account, so it could be listed. Now, originally, when they asked for more money, I think Panos even admitted that he was a little confused too.
Yeah,
we already paid you guys. Why do you want more money to relist it? Well, then he had a conversation with them, and a lot of people don't know this. I mean, I just heard about it for the first time today too. So I get why people were pissed off. Like, why would we pay you again when we've already paid you? It seems like extortion to me.
Mhm.
And as much as this community has been, kicked and beaten around by people for the past 5 years, essentially, I can see why people get so defensive. I completely understand. Um, you don't want to put up with it. I mean, you feel like you're the beaten redheaded stepchild, and it's not a good feeling. So I think people need to understand that that's not the case. And yes, you want to be nice to people, but when you're getting shit on, it's hard to be nice to people, right? So there's that line where they're like, well, now they're considering it if we're nice to them, as long as we can change the attitude and the wording and stop bad mouthing them, they'll consider it. So that's essentially where we are. That funding wallet needs to be refunded. I guess it's going to take more money now because it's probably only half the value, or what the foundation did with it, who knows. So I guess that's kind of where we sit with that. As far as who was the other, I know Hexologist also submitted an application, and they were looking for a signature, which Brett quickly responded and said, we don't have this is
Right.
DeFi. You shouldn't need a signature.
I think a
Let's
lot of them asked for that because I've filled out the Binance one before, and they want this stuff that nobody could answer. Like there's no way to fill any of it out. I know what you mean.
right,
Yeah.
right. I get it. I mean, Hexo should have just signed it and said he's the CEO.
I
That
think
would have
that's
been
just yeah, I think that's just how those forms are, and
right.
it's usually because it might be like more centralized products usually that are coming. But in terms of and Robert Online, appreciate that, man. Really appreciate the super chat. Thank you
Hey,
for
thanks,
watching.
Robert.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I don't sorry, I don't recall you being here before, but I appreciate you watching, man. Really appreciate it.
We got Super Hex, Johnny Chaos. Looks like the gang's all here.
We do. Wow, look at that. Everybody's in here right now. So yeah, and Super Hex, we might actually get to this point, buy them off the market. Yeah. So yeah, it's really I was really enlightened by this Pano stuff today, and I was glad that he came on to talk about that. And
Mhm.
I get it. I mean, and look, they're the exchange. I mean, they can decide anything that they want to list at any
Sure.
given time. They can decide any reason that they want to list something or not. I mean, they're the ones that are paid money to end up listing tokens. And
Yeah.
now, I guess, because here's what I didn't directly ask you yet. RH out here actively so hard, like campaigning for it suddenly, kind of pivoting, doing a 180, which we've seen him do many times over the last couple of years. Like, there's a lot of people who are like, act like this is something new. Like we saw the launch of pump tires and stuff like that. There's been a lot of kind of, I hate this in politics. They'll call it like flip flopping if you change your opinion. I think it's actually good if you're observing the market as Richard is, who we perceive to be a very smart guy, and he's changing his opinion on certain things, or maybe just seeing how terrible Ethereum is, frankly,
Yeah.
and seeing that we might need other things to help us with a leg up. So I don't ever really blame somebody for changing their worldview or opinion on something. But yeah, what do you make of Richard suddenly? I mean, it was literally months ago that we talked. He tweeted about how horrible exchanges are, basically, and now
Well,
he's wanting these. So
we know he changes his worldview. He did it with Bitcoin and said
mhm,
Ethereum's better, and that's why people didn't like him for the longest time, because
mhm.
he hurt a bunch of people's feelings. Um, he is a smart guy. He knows when to pivot. He probably understands that if we want adoption, and I, I love the DeFi aspect. We always say, listen, man, it's opportunity. People can't get it as easy. You got to be a little more knowledgeable to do this. Right now is opportunity cost, and sometimes those prices get pretty low, and it's pretty painful. I get it. But he obviously has pivoted. Now, one thing I don't think he has pivoted on is saying, that he still wants these guys to buy their own. He wants them to, and any exchange has the option to do that. Like you said, they'll list Portnoy's tokens. Well, they
Yeah,
buy those. They buy those off the market and they fund their own account. But they know the mass quantity of trades that happen, it's
Mhm.
going to be worth it to them to do that, right? They
Right.
don't know that about PulseChain. They don't know that yet, or they don't want to take that risk. To them, it's not worth the risk of purchasing a bunch of coins and having them just sit there. Then they're stuck with coins where they would much rather have somebody fund the account and have the liquidity there. Now, if you get on a smaller account like exchange like MEXC or something tier 2, I know Richard's not really a fan of that because they do get hacked more often, and the money gets stolen, and then it just gets dumped anyway. So you really have to be careful of that. But if you can generate enough on a tier 2, a high tier 2, maybe the other people will notice and try to capture some of that market. You got to start somewhere.
Mhm.
I don't think that we're just going to go, hey, Binance, list us, and they're going to say, okay.
Right.
Now, OKX, we had a listing with them, I do believe, at the very beginning with
Yes.
Hex.
Yeah.
Would they reinstate that? I don't know. They're one of the larger accounts. Would be nice. Bitstamp was also for sale. Is there somebody going to buy that? Maybe,
You mean BitMEX?
or
That's for sale,
BitMEX.
right?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, BitMEX is the one that was for sale, not Bitstamp.
Was that Arthur? That was Arthur Hayes, I believe. I
I
think
do
that was
believe.
his exchange. Yeah.
I do believe.
And that's what I was just going to bring up. Like they are apparently looking for a buyer, quote unquote. And that was going to lead me to the next part is would Richard ever, first off, I imagine he has the resources to do it, but would it be worth it actually to buy an exchange, start his own of some kind? I mean, yeah, what do you make of those ideas too?
Well, and that's kind of where I was going. I said I think it's a fantastic idea. If you can onboard, if you can get a exchange license that's good worldwide, I mean, what better thing to do? He's always said it. Who makes the most money? Well, founders, holders, and exchanges. Those are the ones that make the money. And I think it's a fantastic idea. Does it put an even bigger target on his head? Probably. Does he care? I doubt it. I don't think he really cares at this point. He's already got
Hmm.
red notices. But you know,
How
I'm
much worse
sure
does it
he.
get?
Yeah, how much worse can it be, right? And do you just create the situation where you become a CZ and now you're wanted by all these agencies?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I think it's a great idea. Again, I don't know the intricacies of it and what kind of bigger target it would put on his head. Is it worth it? I don't know. Could he do some sort of foundation that would buy it? And he's pretty good at that type of thing. If he wanted to be behind a guarded wall of some sort, that could do it and be in a country where there's no extradition, no whatever. But then can you get it into all countries where it's important, right? Can you
Mhm.
get it into the United States? Can you, because a lot of times they won't be accepted in the States when they get behind those walls. So I don't know. I think it's a great idea, but again, you've got to start somewhere. And I
Yeah.
just don't think, Binance, Coinbase, Kraken has already denied it. If they get enough people submitting applications, they may reconsider, but we've got to be somewhat cordial to them, um, and and try to extend the olive branch. I guess I don't know what more to do.
What I think is important and what is clear from that Corey Costa and Pano stream today, which I did put the link to that in the chat if you guys want to check it out because it is fantastic, is I think there's clearly just miscommunications as is usually the issue when
Sure,
there's fighting. I mean, look, I don't think either of us are exceptionally dumb or anything like that. I mean, if you were an onlooker and saw, okay, it looks like our community raised an amount of money. Maybe it wasn't us personally, so how much of a right do we have to bitch? But raised an amount of money to get a listing on MEXC, and then they, what seems frivolously to us, pull it one day, which really is their right to be able to do, and we all flip out about it, not knowing any intricacies basically of
Yeah.
what all that money was or anything like that. Also like the precedences of like we talked about with Ripple being delisted and stuff like that. I think it's helpful. It's really cool. I think that Panos was able to kind of elaborate on that. And like you said, he even admitted himself that when they asked for more money, he's like, what is this about? And to his credit, he really wasn't vitriolic to them immediately. He just kind of put it out there to everybody, like, what do you make of this? And then, of course, we all are going to get like that. But it's because we also don't know the inner workings of it either. So I don't think MEXC should let that affect like their overall opinion of it, but also if their main way of advertising and stuff like that is on social media platforms, I also understand, being hesitant to do that. So it is what it is. And I think what will happen is whatever fits our right as we get further into the bull market here, they will take place. Wherever a listing will fit, whatever it makes sense relationship wise, that'll just be it. But clearly, like Panos, it reminded me almost of like judge and jury, basically. Like what he said today was, the exchanges want to make money off the trade fees. That's what's really matters. So I think like a lot of this like vitriol on Twitter and stuff like that is nowhere near as paramount as like them knowing the money that they're going to make. That's really what they want to know, which makes total sense. And I respect that. So
I get that too. Digital Money Marcus brings up a comment that was also part of something else. Maddie mentioned the Sens Foundation whole issue where they had a free airdrop because they had some money that was sent through their on Coinbase when the Sens Foundation had their address for donations before the sacrifice. They, I think, gave a canned response. I don't believe it was anything as bullish as people thought it may be. Mm-hmm. All it basically stated was, we understand you have some coins that were on another chain, and if we decide to launch it, you'll be notified as soon as we do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where I think that was a very canned response to anybody that says, hey, I didn't get this airdrop because you don't support it, but my coins were over here and you owe me that money. Well, this was a very large sum of money. $27 million is a fair amount. Now, I don't know how much of that was on chain at the time of the release, the airdrop, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. But there was some, I'm sure. So again, I don't think that's as bullish as it was initially came off, because somebody else had said, yeah, we got the same response when we asked about X coin or whatever it was. So
yeah,
unfortunately, my hope was that Richard's case would somehow cause some sort of precedent that Coinbase could use and win. And it would have been a nice little story for them to say, well, Richard did us a favor. Now we're going to do him a favor and list at least one or two of the PulseChain coins. But that didn't happen, obviously. So,
yeah. I don't think that. I think that message was just a stock thing. I think it's just like if you send something to a network and they don't support it now, that's just what they're going to say. I think people read into that way too much. But
yeah,
we're going to have to just wait and see how this thing plays out. And I do think it's kind of silly. I get what DJ and Moonboy's saying. Social media is always going to be toxic. That's the difficult part. If you're an exchange that isn't maybe the Krakens, the Coinbases, the Binances of the world, and it's like, if you are just blaming like social media sentiment from a group of people on a listing or not, that honestly seems silly to me, which is why I really believe what we said earlier about how much money is in it for us. What are we going to make off the trading transactions? Right. I think that's what they really care about, so
yep.
We'll see how this movement goes on. But the great thing about this community that is it's so grassroots, and there are going to be people out there making those efforts and stuff like that and trying to, cross bridges with some of these people and things. So we shall see.
Who would have known that somebody like Panos has been in contact with many exchanges, right?
Right.
I don't think anybody knew that before.
Right.
Or we probably would have said, hey, dude, go talk to these people for us. We didn't know you had connections. We didn't know you were involved with a company that did this all the time.
Right.
So, Yeah, those are good things to know, and I don't know that he's ever mentioned it. I have never seen Panos on stream before, so
Yeah.
that was good to know. And when people have these type of ties, I know it's not something you want to advertise because then possibly you get taken advantage of. You get all these people sending you DMs and this to do this or that or whatever. But it, the 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 community is so large now that we do have a lot of people that do have ties in places. Before we start bitching and complaining, we probably need to reach out and see who the best person is, rather than just send the whole community after them and light a fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what we should remember is it's also them wanting to be educated on what are they going to make in the deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More than like
Yep.
what are people acting like on social media. But either way, highly, highly can't recommend enough. I thought it was super enlightening. The Corey Costa stream with Panos today. Please do check that out. I thought it was awesome. So I think that's a good place to wrap up for this week. We moral of the story, we're still waiting for this market to go up. PulseChain is just a byproduct of what's happening in the rest of this crypto market. We got Bitcoin at 83K, Ethereum's $1,900 in March of 2025. I think most people would have guessed we were easily at 5K by now, but no, I haven't even sniffed it or gotten near all-time highs, really. I think we got to about 4K at one point last year, and that was about it. So that is where we are at right now. Ewok, do you have any kind of final thoughts for this week?
No, good to be back. Good to get back in the swing of things. I think people just need to exercise their patience, calm down. It's funny that the loudest ones are the one. I think I said this to Johnny Chaos earlier. It's the ones that bitch the loudest are usually the ones that have $300 or $400 invested, and it always seems like they're just the loudest people that are complaining out there. I see a lot of people talking out of both sides of their mouth. One thing in their profile says, all for personal development and this and that, and then they're online bitching about the coins they own. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think people just need to calm down. We will be out of this soon, but you got to stop shit talking your own bags that you hold. It doesn't do anybody any good, and certainly not going to onboard new people into these low prices. We want people to buy now at the low prices, not when it's going up and they get stuck at all these highs. So something to think about.
And it's very helpful to have other things going on and other things to be doing right now. Try to make more money in the real world by whatever means you can. And I mean, even I forget, I think it was T-Bird just the other day, just streamed for the first time and made a YouTube channel. If you feel like you have the resources, which honestly, it doesn't take very much these days to stream or something like that, do it. Or if you want to, be verified on Twitter and start just posting content. I mean, it's very, very easy if have the time on your hands to do that kind of stuff. We have our channel and then we put clips out all week long. I mean, anything you want to do. Some people are TikTok variety and people do that. Although I don't know if you can get in the US anymore. I don't even understand how that works. Whatever it is you want to do. So yeah, there are things to work on in the meantime. So, shout out everybody in the chat. This is an awesome show. Digital Money Marcus, Robert Online. Again, thanks for the super chat, man. Hex Girl, of course. We had Michelle here earlier. Briz, SJ, Super Hex, Johnny Chaos, Fast Abdul, Checks My Pulse, Stubbs. Man, a lot of people here tonight. I know I'm missing people. Urban Productions and a lot more. We really appreciate you guys. We do this every single Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully, there's even more bullish stuff to talk about next week, or maybe Ethereum will be at $1,000. I guess we'll see. So appreciate all you guys being here. Enjoy your week, and we will catch you next time right here on the Creed of Crypto. See you guys.